Welcome to Dating and Relationship Advice. Okay, last time we talked about profiles and what we like and we don't like. We talked about a couple of our dates.
Mm-hmm.
And you had the date with the guy with the bag. And then I told you the date with the girl with the white hair and the dentures.
Mm-hmm. And I told you about the Panera pothead.
Yeah. Panera pothead.
Panera pothead. Oh, that was the other thing, by the way. So anytime I would date people, I always had a nickname for all of them until I gave them, until if it was solidified into a relationship, then I would call them, then I would actually talk about them with their real name. But I would not designate them with a name. Like if I was talking to people at work about someone, I would say, the cellist or Panera guy or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this came out of a movie or not, but I remember this one saying where somebody's saying, "What do you want to be when you grow up?"
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't know what they want to be when in their 50s.
No, I know. It's sad.
So they don't have I guess a passion for something.
So yeah,
and that's what you look for.
Yeah, and that's what I look for. And so I was curious to know, out of the people that you dated, did you meet anyone that had a particular passion for something in particular that you found to be attractive or something like that?
No, it seems like nobody has hobbies, nobody has a passion, nobody knows how to talk. Mm-hmm. There's very few people that I met that actually talked.
Mm-hmm. That's weird. So what do? They just eat?
Yeah, they wait for me to bring up conversations, and a lot of times, I want you to expand on it and stay instead of say yes or no. And all I hear is like a yes or no kind of thing going on. It's like, okay, well, what else is there?
Yeah. Interesting.
That's weird. So that's why I say it's interesting to find a talker, because there's very few talker. I mean, there was a porn star that I met that she likes to talk.
Yeah.
And then there's you that you like to talk.
Yeah, I like to talk.
And I'm like, holy crap.
Well, and I found the work that you did to be incredibly interesting, and I found that we could relate on a bunch of different levels, So, and that's rare. That is definitely rare.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many different hobbies. I mean, I get bored, or more likely I've been taken advantage of a lot. Mm-hmm. So it's like auto mechanics. They pretend to put dye in your oil, and I know when you bring your oil in, it's black.
Yeah.
And unless you have some kind of infrared kind of, dye.
Right.
I'm like, they're going to find out where the leak is.
Right.
And I'm like, don't find out where the leak is. Don't charge me for this extra process and extra service. Just replace the gasket, replace the filter, and replace the oil. You're done.
Right.
Don't give me this added, and that's why I became, among the many talents that I have, I became an auto mechanic.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because if you have control over it, then you know what you're doing.
No, I got more likely I'm educated.
Yeah.
And I know what to say and what to look for.
Gotcha.
So that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, I mean, I would say, well, I mean, yes, I got taken advantage of when I was a lot younger. And I had a lot of people that were not a lot, one person in particular was incredibly dishonest with me. And I never quite recovered from that, and so I'm very distrustful of men in general. And so that's part of the reason I do my research, because if I find out you're going to lie to me about anything, you don't know. No.
Well, see, that kind of reminds me of a movie.
Mm.
What's that movie? It's with that girl from Harry Potter and the Mr. Wilson guy.
Tom Hanks?
Tom Hanks. And it's called The Circle. And The Circle, he created this device that that follows everybody around. It's like there's this necklace,
Yeah.
and they take videos, like constant live streaming of everybody's activity constantly.
Interesting. Wow.
And it was, it's like you put ratings on. Okay, well, I like this person. I'm going to follow this person, and you get ratings on how
I vaguely remember.
how interesting you are.
I remember the trailer to this, but I don't think I ever saw that movie.
And it becomes a point where it's an invasion of privacy, because in that particular movie, they put cameras in the house and they put cameras on themselves, and she called, and there's video phone, and as soon as she called, she saw the parents having sex, and he was in a wheelchair, so she was doing certain things, and she turned it off right away.
Yeah.
And they got weirded out, so they stopped with the cameras and everything else. And the same thing with her best friend.
Yeah.
It's like everybody thought that he was actually, well, he made chandeliers out of antlers,
Oh, interesting.
and everybody thought that he was killing deer.
Oh.
And he didn't want cameras on him or anything else,
Yeah.
so everybody thought he was hiding something.
Right.
So there's a lot of these people with the camera necklaces and devices, and they ran after him. And, he ran, and it became a point where they ran him off the road, and because of them, he died.
Oh, Jesus.
But what he was doing is, the deer molt. And the antlers fall off, and he collects them.
Right.
And just because of what they assumed.
Well, yeah. But the thing is, though, is that, I mean, it's a little different. I mean, you can assume, that's, look, people are dishonest. And
well, people assume a lot of things about me, but that aren't true, just by looks alone.
Well, yeah. Well, same. I still get that. I mean, I'm in a professional position, and, people take a look at me and they don't think that I'm capable because of my hair color or that I'm a female, and that's not accurate. But in my experience, I've had people lie to me outright, and then try to justify the lie. But what I've come to understand is that there are certain lies that are, I don't want to say acceptable, but like you can understand why someone would be dishonest. And, whether it's being ashamed or, look, if you've got a wife and you lie about it, that you're a piece of shit. But if you lie about something like, look, women lie about their age, sometimes because men don't want to date women that are older. That's a much more forgivable lie than being in a relationship and lying about it, because you want whatever, you want more or whatever. So I definitely, as I've gotten older, been more forgiving about certain things and not been so black and white in terms of things that I'm willing to look away from. And I also don't think that just because someone lies about something like that means that they lie about everything else. And that used to be my opinion, that if you lie about something small, you lie about everything. And
well, I mean, that's understandable to a point. It's like, if you lie about this, what else are you lying about? I can see that. But at the same time, I've had the same problem. I mean, how do you experience women lie about their age? How did you come across that?
Oh, it's not, I'm just assuming. I mean...
Oh, yeah, because I came across plenty of people that lie about their age.
Yeah.
It's like this one woman, Cheryl, she listed that she was 50, but she was really 55.
Yeah.
Because, she has a 13-year-old, and how many people that age have a 13-year-old or can relate?
Yeah, well, and for me, I mean, so when I turned 40 and I got back on the dating scene, I, for a split second, considered changing my age back to 39 because I didn't know how many men would be interested in dating someone who's 40. Even though I look basically the same, unfortunately, age, especially for women, is considered to be negative. There's all these young women out there, that, are attractive and, don't have kids and, whatever. And it's hard. You know, you're looking at the pool of people out there, and you're thinking, "No, I'm never." And it's a common adage about women who are over 40. And I mean, in Sleepless in Seattle, the quote that she says is that you're more likely to get hit by a bus than get married after the age of 40. And Meg Ryan's character says, "That's not true," and she's like, "But it feels true." And then the guy says, "It feels true because it is true." And so there's a stigma of women that are older,
I
that
don't
men
know
are
about
not
that.
attracted to older women. You know, I mean, so
I don't think that's true. Well, because how old is that movie? Because I
it's
think
in the 90s.
it's a little outdated because
Well, the
at least my family, the cougar
the
thing.
cougar thing came out, but that's not talking about a long-term relationship. That's just talking about sex.
Well,
You know.
let me revolve it around my family because at least the boys in my family, and I have two brothers. They like to date older women because of my grandfather.
Who he was like 14 years younger than your grandmother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he thought that women lived longer than men, and he would love to, pass away together.
Yeah.
And that was a romantic thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then Daryl caught on to that because I think Daryl's wife now, I mean, they've been married for probably
Didn't they get a divorce?
a long time ago. No, I don't think so. No, that was his first girlfriend and his baby mama.
Mm.
And they were never married. It was
Oh,
his girlfriend.
Gotcha.
But, he married this girl, and I think they're 10 years apart or more.
Mm. Well, one
And it's
of
not
the
a cougar thing.
no, I mean I don't know. I mean, you wouldn't date a woman who was older than you.
I did.
You did, but that was a thing for you. I remember you saying you always
Yeah,
you dated
because-
women that were a lot younger than you.
Yeah, because I can't relate with them.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's, I mean, but some men don't date women that are older because younger women are more attractive. I mean, to
Yeah,
them. So,
I mean, that's a big plus, but that's not something I go after.
no. Well, no, and age, honestly, I mean, I haven't dated anyone a lot younger than me. I mean, look, I didn't even ask them out. I just kind of flirted with somebody that I found out later was in their 20s. And they wanted to go out, but once I started finding out things about them, like we had nothing in common and they were very immature. And I don't want to date somebody immature. I don't want to date somebody that, again, has no ambition, has no goals in life, and so younger men typically don't. I mean, at least not in my experience. And a lot of older men don't either. But, no, but I can understand, like I said, as far as the honesty thing goes, I think there's shades of gray.
Yeah. No, I get the idea that I'm just an oddball because I don't meet too many people like myself.
Same.
I mean, I don't know if it's true, but
I mean,
yeah, I mean, that's crazy.
yeah. No, and I dated them for a very long time because of the things we had in common, but
Yeah, that's where you become friends. If you're not interested, then there's that boundary.
right, yeah.
Yeah, it's
So,
like, I found, the girl that you don't like, Elizabeth. I found her interesting because she spoke in broken sentences. She had she was flighty, and that's not a person that I want to date ever.
oh, and the thing I
And
didn't understand about that was like she didn't have a job. She
No.
had no hobbies or interests.
Well, see, that's what, her not having a job, I kept on asking her questions.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so what are you good at? What are you doing? And she's into accounting. And I ask her some number things, and she has no clue.
Oh.
And her father put her down because she was so stupid.
Oh my God.
And, I didn't say anything because her father was right.
Yeah.
But, I was interested in her because she kept on coming to me for relationships. So it's like, my boyfriend's
Relationship
doing
advice,
this.
or you would
Yeah.
talk to her about her mother. There was a lot of drama
Right.
there, and honestly, I liked her because she could relate to me on the mother thing, and some of the issues that she had with her mom, and and stuff like that. But honestly, so like, which I think is funny not the mom thing, but like, so one of the guys that I dated, a mutual friend, also has a friend who does not work. And I met her and I really like her, but there is something about a woman that doesn't work that I just don't have any respect for. I don't. If you can't take care of yourself and you rely on a man or your parents to take
Right.
care of you, you've lost so much respect in my book.
I don't like that either. Because
No.
if you can't take care of yourself, then
No, take care of yourself. Be able to be self-sufficient and stand on your own 2 feet and don't rely on other people.
Well, see, I think of it as another thing. If you can't take care of yourself, if something happens to me, like I get into an accident, am I going to be comfortable for them taking care of me?
Right? No, I know.
It's like maybe they don't even know the digits 911.
Well, I can say she definitely does. I mean, this is the thing.
I don't know if
His
she
friend,
does.
so no, I don't think Elizabeth does, but I would say his friend is incredibly intelligent, and we have a lot of the same opinions on politics and art and religion and everything. And she's a nerd, and I really like her. I can't stress that enough. I really like her. But two things.
And you would date her?
No.
She's not your type.
No, she's not my type. But no, I mean, but the fact that she doesn't work, and I found out later that she wanted to be like a partner to him, like, and move in with him and his significant other or something, and he didn't tell me that right at the outset.
Oh,
And
that's
so
kind
that
of like
kinda-
a poly relationship.
Yeah, he was in a poly relationship, and and he had multiple girlfriends and things like that, but he had a primary and stuff. And again, I found
I think that's what most guys want is multiple relationships.
not Tyler. Tyler didn't want that.
No, I mean most guys online.
Oh, I don't know about that. I would say of all the men I know, would you want that?
No, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't want a poly relationship?
Oh no, I can do so many different things with one.
Yeah. I mean, no, I mean, it was fascinating though to me to learn about, and at first I will tell you I was very judgmental about it, and I was like, that's gross, and how could you even do that? I don't even understand how something like that would work, especially because I'm an incredibly jealous person. So like poly, back then I was like, I could never do that because my jealousy, I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle the image of another woman touching my man or another man, but the more he explained it, I mean, it kind of made sense. But the one thing that I find interesting is that the thing that polyamorous relationships are supposed to help avoid is heartbreak, because you're getting your needs fulfilled by multiple people. Like if you have one person who is your primary and they, are there for you and they care for you and they're your rock and they're, and you have this family together, but they're not particularly affectionate. You can have a partner who's really affectionate, and kind of gives you that
Yeah,
part
but
of
it's
your life.
for me that's not fulfilling. And if you find one person that has every quality that you're looking for, which is rare, that would be.
It's rare. Well, that's why I think polyamorous relationships exist, because it is rare. And so people that can't find that one person find multiple people, and I mean, the thing that he said about his relationships was that honesty was paramount. Like if you're hiding, it's not a polyamorous relationship, you're cheating. If you have an open and honest communication. And the one thing I found interesting, and I apologize if I'm getting any of these facts wrong, but if you're in a polyamorous relationship, you have to ask permission from your primary to get into another relationship. Like you can't just go off and fuck whoever you want and not tell them, or they have to be comfortable with it.
Even if you're in multiple, you have to ask, okay,
Yes.
I want to go
Yeah.
here now.
Yeah, well, I don't know about secondaries. I don't know if he would have to, if he found a third, if he would have to go to, his other, cuddle buddy or whatever you want to call it, and say, hey, I found this other girl that, I don't know, what could you, who's a really good cook. You know, like, I just want to use her for food or whatever. I don't know. I don't know about that, but I know that you have to get permission from the primary to be in to have any other kind of anything. But the thing is that he experienced plenty of heartbreak being in a poly relationship because, you know, his partner ended up spending more time with the secondary than him, and he got jealous and was like, well, you know, you haven't been with me or whatever. I'm probably saying too much, but
no, that makes sense because, you know, even your kids would say, oh, you're spending more time with.
Well, no, it's difficult, and it's you know, but I can understand how something like that could come about.
There's still problems.
Yeah, there's problems in any relationship.
Not necessarily. It doesn't have to be if you have all your shit together.
Well, that's most people don't.
But
it's usually the problems come because people are imperfect and have issues, and you know, I mean, yeah. So
yeah, but I'm thinking Mormons have more of a poly relationship.
Yeah.
Because that's their religion.
It is, but I really think that, I mean, I've watched plenty of documentaries on Mormons and some of those cults, you know, that have multiple women and stuff, and those women are not happy. This is a religion that they were raised in, and they were taught that this is acceptable, you know. I don't know, but I will say I can understand how, if you didn't have a one person that met all of your needs, how you could find yourself wanting to have multiple things. But
well, that's why I kept looking for myself.
Well, no, and it's... The problem is that most of the men that I found out there had nothing that I wanted. I mean, they would have, like, one thing. Like, there would be, like, one thing. Like, either you were attractive or what? Or we had, like, one thing in common. Yeah, I mean, but I don't know.
I mean, I've known, I mean, not to discourage dating online, but I've known a lot of people that had a lot of good relationships or even got married from online dating.
Oh, so do I. Yeah.
But then it's almost like going into a giant bar. And you know, you're gonna scan the room to see what's on this website or this bar, and you're gonna come across the same people.
Yeah. Well, did you ever read that Modern Romance book by Aziz Ansari? Mm-hmm. It's really good. So he basically is talking about modern romance and how, and he does. It's very intellectual. Like the first part of it, he talks about the history of dating and courtship, and why and how it is so different now, and it's almost worse because we have this myriad of choice. You know, that people just flit from one to the next. Where back in the day, almost everybody married someone within a 5-mile radius of where they lived because there was no internet.
Well, my grandparents didn't.
How did they meet?
Yeah, because they were... There used to be a malt shop, like more downtown Cleveland. Because, yeah, they lived in separate suburbs, so they lived a distance apart. And they got together at the small shop, and they saw each other, and somebody said to my grandmother, "Hey, why don't you date him? You know, he looks cute." And you know, that's how they met.
Yeah, the malt shop couldn't have been that far between the two suburbs.
It's pretty far.
So why this?
It wasn't a 5-mile radius. That's for sure.
They didn't have a malt shop in their own town or something, or this was like the hangout where everybody would go.
Not necessarily. This was a bigger hangout for more people.
Yeah. Well, in my grandparents' case, my grandfather was in the Navy, and he was in Georgia, and that's how he met my grandmother. I mean, so they didn't live anywhere near each other, but he was in proximity of where she was, you know, which I guess is kind of like Tinder, because I mean, you can limit your radius to close by, which I would always do like 5 miles. It's because there's so many. right? And you're like, okay, well,
I wouldn't do that because
that's
for
too
me
limiting
that
for
would
you.
be that would be more stalking because
Yeah.
I'm done with people stalking me.
Yeah.
I've had too many of those.
Well, I've only had one, and that was bad. But I don't know. I mean, but no, it's a good book, and it's just interesting about, the trends in dating and things like that. But I'm trying to think, but no, I wasn't able. There are very few people that I have a lot of things in common with that I also find attractive, and have good physical chemistry. Very rare.
Yeah. Well, that's why they jump around. They try to find a better match.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
But I don't waste my time. I mean, at least I try not to. If I date somebody and we don't have anything in common, even if I find them attractive, I tend to not date them. I mean, there was only one rare case where I was very physically attracted to someone. Very, very few things in common. And not a very nice person either. But I always ended up, hanging out with them when I was super lonely. But
yeah, I did that a lot. I surround myself with friends and
he wasn't a friend. He was not nice.
Right. Well, I mean, I still did that with potential dates.
Yeah.
I mean, they were interested in me, and I'm thinking, well, maybe they have something more that I don't know. So I continually ask questions.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's, you can't read a book by its cover, that saying.
True.
And when you look more into it, they become more attractive.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
less attractive.
Yeah.
Or less attractive. I mean, I would say. I mean, so the one person I dated, and again, that was back when I first moved to Columbus, and I found him to be very attractive, and again, like the same kind of music, and he was passionate about the environment and wildlife and things like that, but he was kind of a jerk. And he was the only person that ever ghosted me.
And you loved wildlife?
No, I didn't love it. I just liked that he was passionate about it. I mean, he was.
I don't know. I need more than that.
I mean, it
for
was
me
just,
at least.
I mean, for him, it was just I was just happy that he had an interest in something. Look, his job was not glamorous. He was a bus driver. I mean, but he did it to pay the bills, whatever. But what he would do in his spare time was that he would go out and he would watch the wildlife and he composted and
We could have been a park ranger.
I don't know. Well, he went to school, I think, for conservation or so. I don't know. But,
Yeah, I have a cousin that's a park ranger.
yeah. No, he was very interested in it, very passionate about it. But the thing is, he was also very judgmental. So, the first time he came over, he was like, "Do you compost?" And I'm like, no. Ew. And then I'll never forget, we went to have, I forget what time frame it was, but it had to have been around Christmas or January no, it had to have been around Christmas. And we went to get a slice of pizza, and he brought his son, which I was a little uncomfortable with because we'd only gone out once before, but he seemed comfortable, and I'm like, okay, that's fine.
So he really likes you then?
No, I think he just didn't feel comfortable leaving his son alone, and he just wanted to go out. So we get there, and we have a slice of pizza, and I forget exactly what I said, but I said something to the effect of, do you still believe in Santa Claus? And he's like, why would you say that? I'm like, what? And he's like, what if he did believe in Santa Claus? You just ruined it. And I'm like, well, does he? And he's like, well, no. He's never believed in Santa Claus because I think that's bullshit or something like that. And I'm like, okay. He was just some of his views were very extreme, and if you didn't agree with him, he was a dick, a total asshole. Yeah, I think we went on 2 dates, and then I didn't really hear from him again. And then I think there was one period of time where I was single, where we hung out one more time and stuff, and I don't know. He was good looking, but he was a jerk. So, not long-term material and just somebody to pass the time, you know?
I don't know. Some people can look past that and be more interested in the good looks. Because that's what I'm thinking, online date sites are. I mean, they swipe based on looks anyways,
I
right?
don't. I read the profile. I mean, if you
Well, so
say
do
some,
I.
so like no, yes, I'm looking for somebody that I find attractive, but I weigh more in favor of the profile than I do. But if I find you butt ugly, like probably not gonna work out unless we have like a ton in common, like 99% of stuff in common.
It's like if you're both missing teeth, that would be perfect, right?
Oh, no,
That's sexy.
no. But no, I still, there still has to be. But so, yeah, no, like I said, I would find someone who was like, I found attractive, but then was either a jerk or we had nothing in common or they weren't passionate about anything or they're addicted to pot or like, I mean, there's just a myriad of things. Or they don't have, well, I wasn't attracted to the guy with the bladder. The one guy I dated, he was very nice looking, worked in IT, but he, he was going through divorce. And again, I don't judge people.
So he was married already.
He was married, yeah, and was going through. They were separated. He was living with his parents, and look, again, I'm sympathetic to that because I've been through it myself. I know what that's like, so I'm willing to give someone the benefit of the doubt if they say they're separated. Now I know personally that when you are going through that it's a complicated time, and probably won't work out, but. So we went out to eat. He brought me flowers, which I thought was sweet. We sit down, and he's like, yeah, I can't believe my ex filed a restraining order on me and a domestic violence charge. And I happened to look down at his knuckles, that his hands were resting on the table, and all his knuckles were scabbed over.
Mm-hmm.
And so he'd been punching something. And which is funny because he seemed very quiet and even keel, but he's obviously got some issues. And and I looked down at his hands, and as soon as I looked at his hands, he put his hands in his lap. And I'm like, yeah, that's interesting. But as soon as I saw that, I'm like, no, I can't date somebody who's violent, somebody that punches things, and this is a complicated enough situation as it is. And so after the date was over,
But it sounds like he's passionate at punching something.
Oh, yeah, passionate. Yeah, passionate about punching people in the face or punching walls or something.
So that's a plus, right?
No, different kind of passion. Totally different kind of passion, yeah. No, can't deal with somebody's anger. And that's the thing. So the last guy that I dated had definitely had anger issues. And, I mean, he didn't have scabbed knuckles or anything, but he was incredibly aggressive and very mean. And I can't handle that. I've got enough trauma in my background that it's not something that I can deal with.
Yeah. Because I don't know if I'd go out with a married person again, because I've been burned 3 times already.
Oh, I still only know about one other one, the FBI lady.
Well, there's one girl.
Jennifer.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember that.
Jenny.
Jenny. Right.
Yeah, I don't talk about her much, but I don't know. I mean, she chased after me, and she was she was married.
Yeah, I thought she was engaged.
Well, she was engaged.
Okay.
I would still consider that. You're on your way to get married.
Yeah.
And you made a promise with him.
Right.
Or you both made a promise to each other.
Right.
And she called off the wedding because of me.
Yeah. Or so she said.
Yeah, but I think it was one of those, a last minute fling things, and she just wanted to date somebody else before she got married.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't budge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she did a lot of things just to try to get me.
Yeah.
And then the other girl was, I didn't know she was married until she invited me to her hotel. And I'm like, what are you doing in a hotel? See, that's what prompted me to ask a lot of questions.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, not a lot of people,
Yeah.
go to or live in a hotel. And it's like, well, we're not having sex because I don't know you that well. And most guys would just jump on that thing because she was a gorgeous girl.
Yeah.
But, she gave me her story where her husband is an FBI agent and everything else. And I'm like, well, I think we should stop dating.
Yeah.
And she got pissed after that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's she's like, yeah, her whole attitude totally changed.
Mm.
It's like, what are you afraid of my husband, you pussy?
Oh my God.
And I'm like, she's a professional woman. She has a professional job. She teaches handicapped people how to speak, but she doesn't know how to, deal with a relationship or a breakup.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm doing this for you because if he were to find out that you're dating, he's going to make it more of a problem.
Right.
I don't care about myself because I can
Right.
take care of myself.
Right.
I'm not afraid of any man. It doesn't matter what size they are or what field they're in.
Right. Yeah.
But she didn't understand that.
Mm. That's why I look up the addresses before I date them.
Yeah. No, I'm more interested in the person, not not necessarily their baggage. I mean, it's nice to hear
Yeah.
their baggage, and then you can choose from there.
Well, yeah. Well, I will say in terms of, look, the one thing I will say about past relationships, if you ask certain questions, it tells you a lot about the person.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you ask them about past relationships and everything is everyone else's fault, they don't accept responsibility, they don't take responsibility for anything that happened in a relationship, and that's a huge red flag. Because it's always both people, it's never just one-sided ever. A lot of people like to make it that way, and they want to play the victim, and they want to say that, oh, well, I was taken advantage of, or oh, they did this to me, or whatever. Look, there's usually
Right.
two sides to every story, and I don't like it like the last person I dated. If you talk negatively about all your exes and you tell me that they're all crazy, you're the one with the problem. I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah.
Because that again, that's a huge red flag. Look, I have nothing negative to say about my ex-husband, except that I was lonely, that we stopped going on dates, we stopped doing things together, and I missed that. And I told him that, and he didn't care. He was more concerned about spending time with family, and he, basically said, well, we're married, we don't have to date anymore. But I liked dating. I liked going out. I liked spending time just the two of us. And he didn't want to. And that was an issue in our relationship.
So he didn't like having fun with you? I mean,
Not just the two of us, no. He was more interested in the family. Like, he wanted to spend time with his parents, spend time with me and the kids.
That's not a reason to get married, in my opinion.
But that was his whole thing. He wanted to get married to have a family. He didn't want to get married to have a wife. He wanted to get married to have kids and to do the things that his family always did together.
Yeah, but you're with somebody because you enjoy their company, not because you want to have a family, right?
He wasn't taught that. His mom got pregnant when she was like 18, and they got married very young. And his dad was in the Navy, so he wasn't around a lot. So Ty didn't really see them, like they didn't go out. They, sometimes, like, at least when I knew him, Ty's dad might take his mom to, like, when he was scouting for, the dental association conferences or whatever, he might take her with him, but not always, and sometimes they would go out to dinner.
Well, I didn't have a male role model either.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty picky, and I don't like to settle.
Yeah.
And I know what I'm looking for.
Well, I didn't. But I wanted a partner. My vision of a partner was my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
My grandma and grandfather, my grandma and grandpa were crazy about each other, and they had a very passionate, a little tumultuous relationship, but at the end of the day, they loved each other. They loved each other more than any two people I've ever seen. Yeah. My grandfather would sing to my grandmother, and my grandmother, would tease him, and she was a little hot-headed.
She didn't sing?
No, not that I know of. I never heard her sing. She would sing in church, but it was with everybody else.
Then yeah.
But I couldn't hear her, just her,
Oh.
But she loved her family. She was the dominant one. She was very, opinionated, and she ruled that family, and she was the boss. But my grandfather could have been the boss, but he didn't care. Like, he just loved her and just let her do her, and just, because he was in love, and he loved her till the day she died. And that was the kind of relationship that I always wanted. I didn't know the issues that they had in their relationship until my cousin and my aunt and I were looking through some old paperwork, and we found that they had gone to like a marriage retreat together and like wrote down all the some of the issues that they were having, and about communication and and jealousy and things like that. And my grandma could be a very jealous woman, because my grandfather was incredibly handsome, and but he loved her. There was no competition. But yeah.
So, well, let me ask you.
Sure.
So you have a lot of those traits. So how do you know when you come across that person?
Across what person?
The person that you really want to be with. Because you're gonna dig and
so I know so
research.
Right. So I will tell you what I've learned over the last 3 years is that the person that I want to be with can do things that normally would make me run away, and things that would make me angry, and I just don't care. I just don't care because I love them. And I like, it's almost like you surrender to it. You surrender to the love that you have for someone, because in the end it doesn't matter, because you don't want to live your life without that person. So anything that they do, aside from like abuse,
Right,
is forgivable. Everything is forgivable because you love them unconditionally. And that's how you know.
Yeah, but how would you get to that point? Because I know you'd probably pick apart a lot of things, or you'd wonder why is he doing this?
I don't know. I mean, I know I've gotten to that part because I'll give you an example from today. Your phone went off and it was a different chime, and it could have been Christine, it could have been Logan, I wasn't sure. And you disappeared for a little while. Normally, I would be incredibly suspicious and I would want to know who you're talking to. I don't care.
Oh, no, I give my family different chimes.
No, I know.
Like Logan.
But what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter, like, to me. It could be anybody, and I don't care. Like, I don't care. I don't know, I accept it. And so I don't have anything to dig for. I mean...
Yeah, but don't you have that in the back of your mind?
Sure.
Still?
But it doesn't bother me. Like, what's the point? What's the point? It just showed me the garbage that's out there. And, one of my biggest issues has been my insecurity and my jealousy. And I've never been able to wrap my mind around a male having female friends and it being platonic. Because in my experience, all the men that I've tried to be friends with have wanted in my pants. I've never had...
Well, yeah, because you're very... you're very beautiful.
Yeah, but... Well, no, and I remember telling my cousin, I wish I was ugly, because maybe I could have more friends, and I would know that the guys don't want in my pants. I would know that our friends...
Disaster.
I want friends that are genuine, not friends that only want me for one thing. So, anytime I've ever tried to have male friendships, it's never worked. It's never worked. Even someone that I had been friends with for 10 years as a work colleague, and we had so much fun together. We went on a cruise, we'd go out to dinner. We were both going through a divorce at the same time, and I was looking at this as an opportunity to lean on one another. I did not find him attractive at all, and it was very clear from the beginning. I was very clear about how I felt and what this was.
Well, see, that's where it's a little bit strange for me, because if you go one-on-one somewhere like that, then they have a different mindset. They think, something else. It's
I
like
don't
a
know.
cruise. I
To
mean,
me,
really?
but to me, like, look, if it were a girlfriend,
If it were a group of people, that would have been
but
different.
even if it were me and my cousin Kristen, or me and another girl, like, they're, it's not like we're gonna hook up, like, it's assumed, like,
Yeah,
we're
but still,
friends.
I mean, I've never done that with my friends that are women. I
No,
would
but
never
you've gone with
by
an ex.
myself.
You've gone on a cruise with an ex and her family, or were you guys together when you
No,
went?
we were together.
That was 2018.
Well, we were back and forth. We were trying to make things work.
Oh, okay. I thought you were single at that point.
No, I mean, I go back and forth.
Yeah, because because the couple of the people that you dated would have had to have been during that time frame too. So, and you said you had multiple relationships.
Yeah.
But if you went on a cruise with your ex and her family in 2018,
Yeah,
it's a very short amount of time. And you said you were with one girl for like a long time. A couple of years, you said.
Yeah, after I got kicked out, I moved in with Ben.
Right.
And then there was not Brandy, but Brittany. Yeah, so we were together for like 2 years.
Yeah, but that
And
didn't
then
make sense to me.
after that-
Yeah, so you broke up with Brittany and got back with your ex.
Well, we would see if it worked or not. But I think she was probably just lonely. I don't know if
But
that's
that's the
true or
thing,
not.
like, but you're saying like if you go on a cruise with someone, that's implying that you're like a couple or like there's expectations there. So I'm just curious to know if you guys were legitimately a couple when you went on that cruise with her family.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, then the family would think of something.
I
wrong.
thought you guys just didn't tell anyone anything. Like you didn't tell anyone about us. I mean, because you had her house as your profile picture even into the year that we were dating. So I just assumed.
Oh, I kept it on there because I was proud of the rebuilding the front of it.
I just assumed you weren't telling anyone that you and her were broken up and that you moved out, like you were waiting. But regardless, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd rather discuss it officially.
mm-hmm.
Like if she's just hemming and hawing, it's like, okay, well, let's separate, let's date other people, find out. If we don't like that, then we'll come back together, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but with me and him, I mean, I made sure to talk to him before we went on that cruise, and let him know we were going just as friends, and he said okay.
Okay.
So I don't know how I could have made it any clearer. And then when we got back, he just stopped talking to me. I mean, that's why we all went out, and I invited him to go dancing.
Because he thinks that there's still a possibility.
Right, and he had a panic attack and he left, or apparently had a panic attack and left. But no, he realized there was competition. But I'm sorry, if you're my friend, like...
No, but he did have a panic attack because I was watching.
You were watching, yeah.
Yeah, he was breathing heavy and everything else, and he was on one of the steps. And he just couldn't do it. He couldn't step on the floor. And he just left after that.
Yeah. All right. And I don't know. To me, it was just like, this was somebody that I'd known for a really long time. I had set the expectations. I had been clear. And then, like, same thing. The one guy from high school that I was friends with, I was working in Perry. He was working in Madison, at the car dealership or whatever. And he says, hey... I liked his LinkedIn when he said he got a new job. Right? Oh, hey, we're neighbors. I'm like, yeah, so cool. So happy for you. Now, he was married at the time and had twins. And he's like, hey, we should, meet up for lunch or something. Okay. Like, I'd known this guy since high school. Mm-hmm. We were really good friends. We never dated, So we get to the pizza place. And we order pizza and we sit down and he's like, I'm like, how are you? How's the new job? Oh yeah, I like it a lot, everything. And then he's like, you look really good. He's like, really good. He goes, he's like, I remember your open house for graduation and you wore this blue dress. He goes, I bet you could still fit into that dress. I'm like, okay. Like, this is not where I expected this conversation to go. I'm like, how are your kids? How's your wife? And it turns out very shortly after that, he had posted something to Instagram with his girlfriend, And I'm like, what? And so I messaged him, I'm like, what happened? He's like, oh, I was cheating on my wife. And I'm like, you don't say.
Jeez.
You don't say, you piece of crap. Like, because he was looking. He was looking for someone, you know, during that time or whatever. And I will say, this is someone, his wife took care of him when he had Crohn's disease and he almost died.
Wow.
You know, raised his kids. Like, you're a piece of crap. So I was not happy. But no, I mean, I was thinking I was going to a lunch with a friend I knew from high school.
Yeah.
Had no idea that you know.
I don't know. Some people can be friends, some can't.
I've only had one. I've only had one who could be my friend.
There's more out there.
I don't know. I mean, most of the guy, like, the one guy that I am friends with was someone I dated and is actually capable of being my friend.
So far.
But who else am I gonna meet? I mean, I don't meet men just to be friends. Like, so, I mean, I don't have a ton of friends anyway. You know, I mean, I've got
but you like people, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that or maybe couples that can hang out.
I mean, I have
colleagues.
I mean, I have colleagues that I'm friends with. I know, you know, like I hang out with like male colleagues, other male directors and things like that. But people that are legitimately friends that know about my life that I can be myself around are very few, very few. But no, but long way around of saying that my friendship now has allowed me to believe that men and women can be friends without any other kind of expectation of romance or intimacy. And I never thought that was possible. And so anytime you had female friends, I always assumed that one or both of you was seeking out some kind of intimacy from the other, because I've never been able to believe that men and women can be friends.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. Because I see it a different way. Because I know my son's mother, she doesn't have a lot of friends. And there's one other person that doesn't have a lot of friends. And it almost speaks out like, is there something wrong with them? That they don't have, you know, other friends. You would be surprised that there's actually quite a few people that don't have a large group of friends. I mean, my mother used to tell me when I was in high school, she's like, how come you don't have more friends? I'm like, I have all the friends I need. I have 2 friends. They're my best friends. I spend a majority of my time with them, and I'm perfectly happy. Why do I need to have a roster full of friends? Like, it's people that you came across over the years, and you just collect them.
I didn't need that. I didn't need to be popular. I didn't need to be liked by a bunch of people.
You don't have to be popular. You just...
That was my mom's point. My mom's point was like, the more friends you have, the more popular you are. But to me, there were very few people that I had anything in common with. I mean, all the people that I went to high school with, nothing in common with. You know? And so, I mean, but the few friends that I had been friends with for years. You know? I don't think there's anything wrong with people that don't have a lot of friends. I mean, at least, if you have at least 1 or 2, I think that's important.
Yeah, but it's almost like they're not really sociable, or they're, you know, like that one guy.
Oh, yeah.
You dated.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing.
There's got to be something wrong.
I'm not like that. I'm very sociable.
Yeah.
But there are very few people I let into and I would say the Giants is the same thing.
Yeah, because there's very few people that I let into my circle.
Right.
I mean, if you treat me the wrong way, you're gone. Or if you suggest something that is inappropriate, you're gone.
Well, so I will say, like, the Giant says that he has a ton of friends, but he only has about 5 people that are in his inner circle that know everything about him, that he trusts beyond all measure. But he has a ton of friends, but he keeps most of them at arm's distance, except for his core group. So, I mean, I have a ton of colleagues and acquaintances. I mean, a ton of people that I know. and people that I would hang out with. I mean, I'm even with my Leadership UA group.
Mm-hmm.
We go out and have happy hour once a month. They're very cool people. Do they know everything about me? Hell no. No.
Nobody's gonna know everything.
Well, not everything, but like, I don't.
There's some private things that you go through.
Well, yeah, I mean, my close friends are ones that know about my childhood, know about how I was raised, know about my traumas, know about the people that I date, know about my insecurities. Most people don't know any of those things. Maybe the people that I date, kind of, but in very vague terms.
Because I share. People know my personal life, but not to a certain extreme. It's like Santos knows my dating life, and we have a business connection plus, a dating connection where he knows some of my dates. Same with Steve. Steve, we have a business relationship, and I've worked for him, just like I worked for Santos, and we hung out, it's almost like 5 days a week.
Yeah.
For years and years. Same with Mike. I mean, Mike, a lot of these people like Steve, Mike, Joe, there's a lot of people that I just grew up with.
Yeah.
Aaron, I mean, there's tons of people. And then the people that were around them, a lot of the women.
Yeah. So I will, okay.
And then we're all friends.
So I will say, okay, so I have two exceptions to that friend circle. So I actually do have two other friends that I'm close with, Kathy and David. And they are part of my Leadership UA group. And they do know everything about me. But in when we're around everyone else, mum's the word. Like, David knows everything.
Yeah.
And so does Kathy. And I know everything about them, too. So we're very close friends. So I would say, of my close friends, I have 4 or 5. Me and my one friend, we're not as close as we used to be, but that's just because our lives are in different places and we kind of had a falling out.
Yeah, it's good to find those friends that, they don't say anything because it's not their place to.
Right. No, and that's one of the things I value about me as a friend, is that I don't judge people on however they live their life, whatever they choose to do. I mean, there's certain things, like, obviously, if you're being abused or abusing someone, or you're doing something incredibly illegal, like, I might have an opinion about it, but in terms of relationship choices or whatever, like, I'm just here to support you and not to judge you. I'll be there as a shoulder to cry on. I'll give you advice if you ask me, but I'm not going to offer it unless you do, because I can't stand when people do that and try to tell me what to do when I haven't even asked their opinion. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely value in friendships. But my point being that whereas I used to be incredibly jealous of the female relationships that you had, I don't find myself in that space anymore, and I think that's because I have a male friend and I know what it's like.
Yeah, because there's a value to have opposite sex friends.
Yeah, I think so. He
To get a
definitely
different
understands.
perspective, yeah.
He definitely understands the male perspective, and he was a certain type of person before, and understands the male brain, or at least the typical male brain. And I don't know. He's very wise and he's non-judgmental, which I appreciate very much. And I feel the other thing too is that I feel like I can be a support for him too,
Yeah, because he's stuck in a lot of ways, and he asks me certain things. And
No, I mean, one of the things that him and I had talked about, and I knew this was going to happen, was the holidays are really hard. And I know that he was living in a duplex next to his ex. And so even though they weren't together and she's married to someone else, he was still surrounded by his daughters and his granddaughter and his ex and her husband and this big group of people that was always around, And the thing that killed me was when people used to tell me, you need to just be happy being alone. You need to just, enjoy being alone. I don't like being alone. It sucks, okay? There's nothing enjoyable about spending the holidays alone, and not having your children and not having your family and feeling like you failed at life because You know, you don't have all those things that you're supposed to have at this age or whatever. So he got an apartment and he moved out on his own, and I knew that the holidays were going to be tough for him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he doesn't have a partner and he's far away from his family. He's not in the same house. And you know, and he's
It's
one.
not convenient for them.
No, and
Yeah.
for him, and he, you know, he was like, "Oh, I'm a tough guy. I'm fine. You know, and I'm independent. And I don't mind being alone." And he was struggling, you know, and I know because I've been there. I've been the one eating cake and ice cream and crying my eyes out because I'm alone, and I don't want to go back to the situation that I was in, but I still miss my family. I still missed my family,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it sucked, you know. But I am proud of him because despite his loneliness, he's not jumping into a relationship the way that I did, you know, or
Yeah, it's never good
no,
to jump into something.
it's not just because you're lonely. And
Yeah.
he's definitely a much stronger than I was at that time mentally. I mean, and him and his ex had been together for a very long time. But they've also been not together for a very long time too. So I think that might help a little bit. But it is hard when you go from being in a house full of people to being alone, especially if you are a people person the way that he is and the way that I am.
Yeah.
It is a soul crushing, lonely. I mean, I remember the one time I was in my apartment by myself, and I was just feeling so sad, and I could not stop crying. And I moved into the same apartment complex as my mother, even though my mom and I didn't get along, just so I could be close to somebody, anybody. And I just
we were talking to each other then.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's different not having somebody there. You know, it's empty.
Oh, yeah.
It's silent.
Yeah,
you know, it's deafening. And I went over there and I was just crying my eyes out and until I got tired of crying, and then I went home and went to sleep. But no, I mean, so he needs me as a friend, you know, as much as I needed him, you know, this past year. So, and it feels good to be needed too, you know.
Yeah.
So, in that way, I understand your relationships with your female friends because they needed you. You know, you were helping them work through their issues. You were
Yeah, but
there.
nobody was ever there for me.
Yeah.
So there's a bad thing.
I don't know. Elizabeth listened to your problems.
I never forcefully talked to her because she never had good advice, and I can never, I don't know, like she talks in broken sentences, and I don't like talking to her. So
Yeah.
I mostly listened to her unless I was desperate.
It wasn't that you were trying to connect with her in an intimate way. It was just you were trying to reach out to a friend to have somebody to talk to. So, but no, I mean, I get it. That was a really long way of answering your question.
Okay.
I mean, how do you know? I mean, how do you know when it's the one? You know?
Well, in that one aspect, you opened my eyes to a lot of things because of the questions that you asked. It's like the first one years ago where you said, "Why do you love me?"
Mm.
And I'm like, well, let me think about that. And I wrote down this whole thing, and I'm like, holy shit, I don't have this much in common with anybody. And it solidified things with, rare things that nobody would ever have in common.
Yeah.
You know, like the stuffed animals we kept with each other. None of my friends have that. I have like 122 friends that I talk to.
Yeah.
And it's like nobody has that. Nobody has the relationship with chess or the
Mhm.
particular figures. Nobody has that connection with the lighthouse, regardless of what your family's last name is,
Yeah.
or if that painting was really from the lighthouse in Michigan that I was involved with.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many things. It's almost like we grew up experiencing the same thing at the same time,
Yeah.
even if we were separated.
Yeah. No, I mean, no one else that I had known of had grown up in poverty the way that I did, and understood hunger, or abuse. I mean, that's something that's it's not a happy thing, but it's something that, you can relate to on a very intimate level, and understanding and have that empathy for the other person. I've been in relationships where the person had never experienced that, and it makes them uncomfortable for you to talk about it. They don't want you to talk about it. They want to act like that never happened to you because it makes them uncomfortable, So.
Yeah, so that makes you not relatable.
Right. Very not relatable.
So, yeah, if you can relate with somebody, and every single level, it's like if you can relate with them intellectually, emotionally, and physically, I mean, you have it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the same thing. I mean, and I do believe that forgiveness and is also something that, I don't want to say it's rare, but like, I don't know if you feel the same way. I mean, to me that's the biggest indicator that things that used to be important and things that bothered me before don't bother me, and it's a non-issue because so you don't know how many people have told me that they love me. Mm-hmm. Everyone. I mean, the only people that I've ever believed loved me were my children. I never believed anyone else when they said they loved me because there was always an agenda attached to it or something. Or at least a perceived agenda.
Yeah.
And like I said, the biggest realization for me, because you have to understand in my mind, and again, and I know I've explained this before, when my dad told me that I was no longer his daughter and that he wanted me to leave and never come back, and I went with my mother, and she rescued me from a house where I probably would have been killed, and I came back to get some of my things. And this was not a long time later. This was like a few days after I had left. I walked upstairs to my bedroom, and it looked like I had never existed. I was completely erased from that house. Mm-hmm. All my pictures were gone. All my toys were gone. The bedding on my bed was different. Like, my clothes were gone. My books were gone. Everything was gone, and he had burned everything. And so that's my experience with someone that told me they loved me more than anything. And when I left, they erased me completely. That's not love,
Yeah, but that's just one person. You can't assume everybody's like that.
But I don't have anything to compare it to. I mean, this is the person that was supposed to love me unconditionally. My father was supposed to love me unconditionally. I can't expect any man who is not bound to me, to love me unconditionally. I mean, I don't even understand how that works. I mean, I've been involved with all of my relatives, aside from my grandparents, are divorced or, have broken relationships, and so...
Well, I'm not trying to make excuses, but he was just angry, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what would you do?
I don't know.
If somebody angered you that much and just left?
See, and I'm like my father. So, times that I've gotten angry, but everybody else...
You got rid of everything else.
Yeah, I did. But no, I was angry. Ripped up pictures, tossed out things, I mean, I was incredibly angry. I have definitely learned a lot this past year. It just from dating and those experiences. And, I mean, it's not to say that I'll never get jealous, I probably will. Then you can see how it feels like.
No, I mean...
It doesn't feel good.
No, it gets uncomfortable.
It does get uncomfortable. It does. I mean... Because
if you're hugging other people, then it's like, okay.
Well, no,
that's a little strange.
Well, I would say that was definitely something that I struggled with the Giant, was when his friend, they'd been friends for a really long time. She's in a committed relationship, and we're leaving their house after dinner. But I will say the difference was, here's the difference, because I really like his other friend who's a female. She actually talked to me while we were out at dinner. Mm-hmm. When I was at his other friend's house, this other woman's house, I felt like I wasn't there. And it just felt awkward. She really didn't talk to me. They played a game and I wasn't involved, because I didn't know how to play. But instead of picking a different game, they decided to go ahead and play that game, even though I didn't know how to play. And so I just kind of sat there. And then we're leaving, and she, wraps her arms around his neck and she's on her tiptoes and she like kissed him, you know, and stuff. And my blood started to boil.
Yeah, that'd still be uncomfortable.
Yeah, but
Because friends don't act that way with me. There's no
wow.
kissing. There's
But
no
how
touching.
often do you see your female friends in person?
Not anymore because of the pandemic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I give David a hug. I mean, I don't kiss him, but like, I mean, I hug David when we hug goodbye.
I mean, there was only one friend back in high school that used to hug me, but then I got the wrong idea.
Oh.
But no, she was just a hugger. She hugged everybody, and
Yeah, I
I
mean,
didn't realize that.
I hug all my friends. I mean, so it's not. I mean, that's common for me, but yeah, seeing that definitely made me uncomfortable. But a lot of it was also the fact that like I didn't feel like I was there. I kind of felt like a third wheel and not really part of what was happening or going on, and I didn't really feel like he was there with me, you know.
Yeah.
So I didn't like that. But
Yeah, I wouldn't like that either.
no. So yeah, I mean it's just a learning experience. But no, I mean when things that used to seem like big deals don't really matter anymore, because at the end of the day, this is the person for you. I mean, aside from, like I said, like abuse or neglect or something. You know?
Yeah, but people still. I mean, I've seen people in that kind of relationships, and people stray or people drift apart, and they
Well,
connect with other people.
Well, that's why it's important to continue to, like, when it starts to get stale, we both have the same outlook on life in terms of, like, enjoying life. It could never get stale because we'll always find things to do. You know? I mean, I don't ever see it getting boring, you know? I mean, I just have a hard time picturing that. I mean, I don't think you're not the type of person who are like, okay, we've dated, now we're done, and the next 20 years we can just sit around and watch TV.
No, because I like to create things. I mean, I still want to try to figure out how to finish that one game.
Mm-hmm.
Because you put in my head, you know, there has to be 100 different options, and I'm like, okay, so how do we get to 100?
We can definitely.
And I'm trying to figure that out.
We've got glass blowing and zip lining. We can go horseback riding. We can travel. There's so many things to do. So many things to see. You know, so many things to make. Yeah, I just don't. I mean, that can fill up the next, 20 years of our lives.
But that's all. That costs money.
I'm rich, don't you know that?
Yeah. No, because your mother needs knobs and.
Oh yeah, well, it's 12. She needs 12 of them at $2 a pop. It'd be like $25. That'll be chump change.
Yeah, but on my budget, I couldn't really do it. It's like those front stairs. You know how many times I tried to cement it and put brick on it to make it look nice, and it just turned shitty, and then I just broke it apart.
Mm.
And I couldn't figure out how to do it neatly.
Mm-hmm.
And I just gave up.
Mm-hmm. I want someone who will go and do fun things with me. And I'm willing to have, that's an expense I'm willing to take because I want someone to do them with,
mm-hmm.
And I know my financial situation. I mean, I dated someone who wasn't fine with that, and it wouldn't have worked,
I mean, it gets uncomfortable where... if you share certain things with your friends, I mean, I like to share the same thing.
You mean sharing the cost, you mean?
No, like if you go somewhere with them, it's like, hey, I always wanted to go there too.
Yeah. And that's why we need to talk and communicate.
Yeah.
So, is that the end of this episode?
That's been the end. What are you talking about?
It's like an hour and 20
Okay,
minutes.
see you, bye.
Bye.